Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hi, Rob Browne here with you on this Friday morning, man. What a great day it is. Absolutely gorgeous. Got out there, knocked out mowed the 5 acres last night. It is gorgeous over here in Parkin, Arkansas. John Hartwell going to be joining us from Destin, Florida. Got a call a few minutes ago from MJ. He and Tommy Lusk down there for the big bankers convention in Destin. What a great place to be. John Hartwell is for the Sun Belt Conference meetings. We will also be joined in the second segment by a friend of mine, Broc Krietz, who played football at Ole Miss, played for 3 different coaches in 5 years. Billy Brewer signed him out of Naperville, Illinois. And then Sockless Joe Lee Dunn coached him the next year. And then the very next year, he had Tommy Tuberville for the next 3 seasons. So a wild time. He's going to tell a cool story about his career and where he thinks we're going in college football. But he and Walker Jones, Ole Miss linebacker from Jackson, are famous for running down Hines Ward in the Georgia game in 1996. And it's a cool story about that. And Tommy Tuberville said something about that on the show. We'll get into that in the second hour. Bo Carter checks in from Dallas, National Football Foundation, former SID at Mississippi State, Baseball Writers Association of America, a man for all seasons, a great one from the Quad Cities, Sheffield, Alabama, along with Muscle Shoals, Florence, and Tuscumbia. And then the second hour, Coach Matt Dean will check in with us as well. And the coach, Jackie Sherrill, checks in up on the White River. I bet you I'm just going to take a bet here, John. He's doing some trout fishing up on the White River. But he will be with us as well to talk about, what's going on in college football, what he thinks is happening. We're here 6 days a week, 50 hours a month of content. We aims to please, folks. We're here to serve. That's what our job is. Follow us on Twitter at @sidelines_live. Man, John, I see you in the background down there. Can we get a golf shot? I mean,
yeah. Let me raise it up here. So.
Oh yeah, there we go. Now my blood pressure's way down. Well, let's have that background. I like that background of the. Yeah, there you go. Perfect. If you can hold it, you have to hold it like that. Well.
Yeah. Here, I can probably do a little technical upgrading here. Hold on.
Yeah, that'll be fun. But bottom line, there's a lot to talk about. Follow us on Twitter at @sidelines_live. And folks, we have the American flag displayed right here. We are proud of it. We are proud to be Americans. We live in the greatest country in the world. I believe in the right of free speech, the First Amendment. We don't hold back on this show. We get the best guests that we can get, which are the best guests out there. Oh, man. Oh, that's so relaxing, John. That's down there on 30A. It looks like that's where you are. And you're down there for the Sun Belt Conference meetings. But, John, let's talk about it right now. There's a lot of things are always happening in college athletics. As an athletic director, you are like a hedge fund manager, like an analyst. You've got that accounting background in public accounting. You worked with Deloitte for 4 years. There's so many things that we don't know just as regular laymen, but the Sun Belt Conference is right there, group of 5. And I mean, in the last 5 years, there have been several years football-wise, they've been better than, let's be honest, the Pac-12, which really needs a lot of help. But you're always fighting battles, perception battles, fundraising. There's a lot going on. But now all the ADs and coaches are together in one big room or in side rooms for breakout sessions, I'm sure. But tell us what's happening.
Yeah, and you make a great point there because and I was having this conversation last night. When we meet in competition, regardless of the sport, the ball is tipped, it's kicked off, it's whatever the first tee shot is hit, it's game on. Then it's you're not in this for a second place trophy or a participation trophy. You're in it to win. But outside of the competitions, we're all in the same boat together. We've got different nuances on each of our campuses, but we're we're trying to do everything every day that we can to enhance our student athlete experience and make sure that the young men and young women who, whether they're competing for us as the Warhawks or the Georgia Southern Eagles or Arkansas State Red Wolves or, Marshall Thundering Herd, that we're battling to give our kids the best opportunity to succeed. And so, it's great. Obviously, the meetings are important here, and we've had the folks from the NCAA. We've had our bowl partners. You mentioned, the NFF. We've had the NFF guys here, National Football Foundation. So, a good 4 days of meetings, but we're all in it for the same thing. And I know, next week, Conference USA will be here. The following week, the SEC will be here. And we're all in the same business. I mean, there may be another 0 or 2 on some people's budgets than there are on others, but we're all in it together. And it's a challenging time, obviously, as we've talked about before. Transfer portal, NIL, all of those things. But you know what? At the end of the day, the passion that people have for college athletics, for their team, whatever team that may be, and the drive and the enjoyment that provides, win or lose. Yeah, there's a little more enjoyment in winning. Gives people, one, it brings everybody from all backgrounds together. You can throw politics, you can throw religion, you can throw all of the dividers, in our society, if you will, out the window. People come together, and that's part of what makes athletics, and in particular college athletics, so special.
No, I agree with you. And again, most of the people that you employ, the ones that I've known that were college athletes, student athletes, they discipline and work ethic are great traits to have. We always tell our kids and every day, when you show up to work, what can I do to help? And that starts as a teammate, making other people around you better. And, that saying, I believe it's true. You're shrinking to make other people around you feel less uncomfortable or less insecure is a disservice to not just you, but to everybody. You want to raise the boat. You coming into the Sun Belt Conference, you've got a lot of experience. You left, and in '97 you're at Georgia State. Look what's happened at Georgia State. God, now we know they got a great MBA program. That's what a lot of people go into Atlanta. They got a great MBA program. Now their athletics are coming up. Then you go to Ole Miss for 10 years. Well, look what they've done facilities-wise. Go to Troy for 3 years, down on 231. Pretty damn special what they're doing down there. Take a look at the facilities. 7.5 years at Utah State. You got a great trail behind you. So you come in here to ULM, and you've got a vision. But I like that deal. Dreams without plans and hard work are just dreams. And they lead to a lot of disappointment. So what are you doing to kind of introduce yourself? You probably know a lot of those people, but what are you doing saying, hey, in order for us to be competitive, here's a plan. I bet you, because as a planner, which you are, that's how you win.
Yeah, and the first thing is, and almost 3 months in now, first thing is you've got to have a vision. That vision is for us to compete in the upper echelon of the Sun Belt Conference across all 16 sports.
Yeah.
You've got to, you can't just say, I want to do this without a plan. You got to have a plan. But the first thing you got to do is believe in it. If people don't believe in it and don't believe it can happen, that they need to go somewhere else. You've got to make sure that everybody on your team is pulling on the same end of the rope. That's whether it's your coaches, your academic folks, your athletic trainers, your compliance people, everybody. You've got to have their buy-in to the vision. And, I'm fortunate enough, or maybe you can say I'm old enough where, and I appreciate the kind words that you've said about those places I've been, that we've had the success. So I just don't say this and say, hey, believe in this. There's no evidence that this is going to work. I can point to the other places, that I've been where we have, I call them opportunities. I don't call them challenges, but we had plenty of opportunities as we do in Monroe, and have been able to navigate around those and to make, a successful plan. And I feel really good about that going forward. Is it all going to happen overnight? No, absolutely not. Somebody told me the other day, hey, 2 months in, your women's golf team wins the conference championship, the first, only the second conference championship in the last 13 years in any sport at Monroe. And I said, well, maybe that's just a blind squirrel finding a nut every once in a while. But, it starts with the belief that you can do it. So, hey, I've got to interject this real quick before I forget it. Broc, Krietz, Walker Jones. That is too good. I got to know Broc a little bit while I was at Ole Miss, and please tell him hello for me. I got to know Walker really well and have maintained a strong relationship with Walker. But you get those two dudes in the room, and you say, hey, which one of you really caught Hines Ward? That's some entertainment there. You need to tell Broc you want to have he and Walker on the same day and talk about that story. And as with every athletic achievement, the older we get, the more embellished the story gets, but it's worth the price of admission, I promise you.
Oh, no, there's no question about it. And the bottom line is that's what, and I worked with Broc at Reasons Morgan Keegan for 5 or 6 years. And, he's real involved in coaching with his kids and all, but that's the classic student athlete, and that, Jordan Love, you had him at Utah State. He, as an athletic director, a coach is a coach for one sport. An athletic director is de facto coach of all 18 or 21 or 22 sports. You've told me that, and I totally agree with it. And you keep up with everything. You and I text and talk a lot during the week when you're not on. You're on the road to tournaments, to games and all. And I think the role of athletic director is so underappreciated for what you do. And you are another quintessential student athlete. You could have walked on probably at Auburn or Alabama in basketball, and you would have made it. I have no doubt you would. Conceive it, believe it, achieve it. But you go to the Citadel and take that route and work your ass off for 4 years. Academics, accounting, playing basketball. I mean, that's why we cannot have just a few schools good and the hell with everybody else. That's the worst thing this country needs right now, isn't it?
Yeah, it's, and I think there's some encouraging signs. And I talked to you several weeks ago after our FBS ADs spring meeting in Dallas, and getting to spend some time with Charlie Baker, the new president of the NCAA, former governor of the state of Massachusetts. And he gets it. He absolutely gets it. So we had Jen Frazier, who is one of his lieutenants at the NCAA, visit with all of our coaches and senior women's administrators and faculty athletic reps who are here in attendance at our Sunbelt spring meetings yesterday to talk about some of the things going on NCAA-wise. Obviously, NIL is at the forefront. And, I am more encouraged than ever about some federal legislation getting momentum, obviously, with Charlie Baker's political savvy, his ability to navigate some of those things in D.C. Tommy Tuberville, I give him a huge round of applause for trying to get this thing off the ground. And again, that's just not somebody on the Hill in Washington that doesn't know about, college athletics, the ins and outs. He's lived it, in his years as a coach. So that's really encouraging to me. And, the two biggest things are, some kind of parameters around name, image, and likeness. Yeah. And part of that is, trying to find a way to make sure that the quote agents, and I use that term loosely, because, anybody can go out there. Unlike, if you're an agent for an NFL player or coach or something, you've got to go through a registration process, a licensing process. Right now, anybody can say, "Hey, I'm an agent for this kid in NIL," and so I'm really encouraged from that standpoint, because I really don't think the NCAA can do that. I think the federal legislation to do that, is going to come. It's going to take us a little bit more time. But like you say, and I think people realize that now, there are a lot of things going on in our country and our world that in pure importance are way more important than college athletics. But what it means to so many people, vehicle that allows for first generation kids to be able to get a college education, we've got to do some things to help right the ship, if you will, going forward. I mean, it's still a great thing, and bright days are ahead, but we've got to deal with some of these nuances, and good news is I think there's growing support for some federal legislation to do such.
Yeah, and we're about to take a break. We're going to come back, get some more stuff to get into, but you just think about this. If you're a pre-med student, you want to be a neurosurgeon or a cardiovascular surgeon, you're a sophomore at ULM, you can't go out on the concourse during the day and perform surgery. If you're a pre-law major, you can't practice law. You got to wait. You got to work. You got to earn it. I know anything I've ever had in life that's worth and valued by me, I've worked my ass off for. I still remember my mother, don't take the elevator to the top of Haley Center at Auburn on the 8th floor. Why not? She goes, because you can't punch a button and get to the top. Take the stairs. You'll remember what it took to get there. That's the kind of advice. And from coaches that I've had over the years that reached across the table and grabbed me and said, son, your parents pay a lot of money for you to get an education. I'm going to make sure they get their money's worth. Learn and learn quickly. That's what we love about coaches. We'll be right back. John Hartwell, AD, ULM, live from 30A. Looks like
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, John Hartwell is with us right now, live from the Sun Belt Conference meetings down in Destin. I want to say hello to Sherrill Chambers, listening over in Memphis. Thank you so much. She listens every day. Also, RumbleBoxingGym.com. They're located 1835 Union Avenue, Union and McLean, Midtown Memphis. This is the first of 3 locations for Ann Camp Lee. I'm going to tell you right now, this place is awesome. I've been to the workout. I've done it. I'm going to be doing it more and more in the future. 45 minutes, the length of a prize fight. Go there, check them out. RumbleBoxingGym.com/Midtown Memphis. It is the place to be for fellow warriors. A lot of type A personalities in there. And John, there's a lot of those down there in those meetings. And, you think about the importance of people having a vision. And athletic directors, like you say, D1, D2, D3, they're all interconnected because they're trying to teach, college athletics. I mean, it's expensive, but it costs a whole lot more if we don't have it. And you say that there's a lot more important things in Washington. Those guys could screw up a 2-car funeral. Athletic directors and people like you, what you're doing, you have a private sector background. Again, how important is that? And are you keeping up your CE credits, by the way? For
Yeah, I think the the private business bottom line background is obviously a useful tool, because really you do have to run an athletics department, like a private business, and where it probably has an additional twist to it. Not only do you have employees, coaches, staff, all of those things, but as you talked about a little while ago, I've got 370 surrogate kids too, between the ages of 18 and 23 as our student athletes. And and unless you put them all in a glass bubble, 18 to 23-year-olds are going to be 18 to 23-year-olds, especially with one of these things there, and you're going to have what I'd like to call teaching moments. I mean, we're all in the. Don't forget this: wins and losses are what you get judged on. Coaches get judged on. Athletic directors to some extent. Bottom line, but we're all in the education business, and playing the sport is part of your education. Overcoming losses, adversities, bad decisions, things like that. That's all part of that education process. Now, are there some bad decisions that are tougher to recover from than others? Yeah, absolutely so. And unfortunately, our media likes to capitalize on those and exploit those a whole lot more than they do the good things that college student athletes do. But it's all part of the teaching process. And as I've been in this business about 26 years now, every time you say, I think I've seen it about all, there's another chapter to the book to write of something. Gosh, I hadn't seen that one before.
Yeah. Well, and I'm totally with you. And Broc, I'm going to bring Broc Krietz on, and he is in his office right now to say hello to you real quick before you go. Broc, John Hartwell is slumming it down on 30A for the Sun Belt Conference meetings, but I wanted him to say hello to you, and you say hello to him. Broc gave me one of the greatest phrases ever anyone's told me. He said, "Hey, Bobby, how about a road soda?" I'm like, what? A road soda? That's what you call a cold beer. A road soda. That's a Naperville, Illinois term, by the way. I just might add that.
How you doing, Broc? Man, long time.
I'm doing great.
Good to see you.
Yeah, John, you doing all right? Looks like you are doing okay.
Yeah, doing well.
Better than Rob and me slumming it up in Memphis.
Hey, when Rob told me you were going to be on, I said, well, that's going to be awesome. I'm going to be happy to say hello to him. I said, but if you want real entertainment for your listeners out there and your viewers out there, have Broc and Walker on at the same time and get their own individual versions of the play about who really ran Hines Ward down.
That was a joint effort.
Broc, by the way, Coach Tuberville was on the show with us. He was on pretty much every week before he became a senator, and he got kind of busy, but he still comes on periodically. He said, you talk about that play with Broc Krietz and Walker Jones. And of course, Walker was from Jackson, Mississippi, I think. Did you go to Jackson Prep? Okay.
He was JA.
Oh yeah, man.
He would be really upset if you said Jackson Prep.
Yes, that'd be like a Christian Brothers guy like me saying, you went to MUS? No, I went to Christian Brothers. No,
that's right. That's right.
Coach Tuberville or Senator Tuberville said, I'm going to devote an entire chapter to that one play in my book because it's my second year there, and that was such a pivotal moment. But John, as you know, Broc, that's your student athlete. I mean, I know what he does. I worked with him for 5 years. Discipline, hard work. That's why you do this, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and you look at a guy like Broc. I mean, that's what a student athlete is all about. That's what when they're a small fraction, and a lot of kids. I mean, none of us understand that when you're a student athlete and you're 17, 18 years old, you're going from high school where you're a big fish in a small pond to college, and there's an adjustment period there, but every kid thinks they're going to the NBA or the WNBA or the NFL, and it's our job to make sure that hey, people aren't high achievers without having high aspirations, but you've got to have a dose of reality too. And the reality is it's less than 1% of the kids that play FBS college football ever play one down in the NFL. So, if you're banking on that for your financial future or your financial security, you might as well be going and spending your meal money at buying lotto tickets because the likelihood is about the same. So getting the total student athlete experience and especially winning is easy. Everybody is good at winning. It's how do you respond to adversity? How do you get up, dust your tail off? Because it doesn't just happen in sports; it happens in life every day. And those are the powerful lessons that college athletics teach that hopefully help us with the next generation of young men and young women who will shape this country and this world.
Yeah. I mean, Broc and I can tell you, get knocked down, get back up, get knocked down, get back up in the sales business. Broc, every time you call someone, they go, yeah, I'll take $1 million of those bonds and put an extra point in there for yourself. And my buddies over here at the club, that's how it works, isn't it?
Yeah. I've yet to call somebody and get that response, but
Exactly.
I'm still waiting. Still a chance.
Exactly. But John, I know you got to get going into the meetings and all, but just bottom line, there's a lot more Broc Krietzes and Walker Joneses than there are guys that went to the NFL or whatever professional league. And so the people that you're working with, and it's nothing against the ones that go on and play pro ball, but you got to be going, look at all the doctors and attorneys and architects and engineers and chefs and, Navy SEALs or whatever that I had an impact on. I mean, I bet because that's what most of them are. And I'm not diminishing a professional athlete by any means, but like Ben Troop's on with us a lot, played at Florida, All-American, played in the NFL 5 years, left on his terms, but he's out there impacting people, Not many people have a 15-year career.
Yeah, that's one of the things we've got to do a better job at the institution level, at the conference level, at the NCAA level, is getting those stories out there, the success stories out there about people being high achievers in everyday life. It doesn't have to be as a professional athlete. And obviously, you take two guys that were Ole Miss linebackers. I'll use Broc Krietz and Patrick Willis.
Cool.
And obviously P. Willie was a guy who was, I think Coach Cutcliffe was about the only one who offered him a scholarship. And he had an unbelievable career with the San Francisco 49ers. You hear more about him, and rightfully so. He was a tremendous all-pro player. Yeah. But you look at what Broc's done, equally as impressive, just in a different arena that may not get all the fanfare to it. Yeah. And we've got to do a better job as institutions, as conferences, as the NCAA, of highlighting those things and making sure that the public knows those components, not just the negative stories when a kid gets in trouble or a kid gets $1 million NIL deal.
Yeah. Well, one last thing, Broc, when you played at Ole Miss, 95, 96, 97, those 3 years, Takeo Spikes was a linebacker at Auburn. And you know what, Takeo, he had a 15-year career in the NFL. You know what he does now? He helps professional athletes and all transition into the real world. That's what he does. You talk about having a great speaker. You get him, a Walker Jones, a Broc Krietz to come in there and talk about that. About, hey, here's Broc, did not play in the NFL, probably could have if he'd have wanted to, from Naperville, Illinois. Enough road sodas, he may have done it. But that's what we need to be hearing about because, we talked with Matt Dean over at Rhodes College. I mean, they had 38 students apply for medical school. Every one of them accepted. I mean, that's pretty damn impressive. But John, look, I know you got to go into the meeting. You're down there. That is such a beautiful background. Looks like you're in Indonesia or something. That is 38. Oh my God.
I'll give you a little better view of the water. Yeah, no seaweed, no undertow, and crystal clear. So yeah, we get done about 11:30 today, and I intend on getting some R&R. But hey, guys, be with y'all. Brock, great to see you.
John, great to see you, buddy.
Hopefully when we come up and play in Oxford in November, you'll be at the game and I'll get to run into you.
Absolutely. And lastly, I just appreciate you including me, my name in the same sentence as Patrick Willis. So that made my day.
Absolutely. Y'all have a good one, guys. Take care.
All right. Good luck. Thanks, John.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. John Hartwell, Athletic Director, University of Louisiana, Monroe. And Broc, I'm going to tell you, it's really fun to me because you and I were working together at Morgan Keegan. And, most of the people, Morgan Keegan, they actually had a model they tried to build the company on, if you remember, on athletes. They hired people, and a lot of people. I know my friend Chris Perkins, who's there. He's still now that's Raymond James. But, they had a bond trader down in New Orleans or Baton Rouge, Nicky Savoy, that he worked with. It was a tight end at LSU. There's so many guys like you. When you go down to Ole Miss, I mean, you're part of the Letterman's Club. You've got 3 kids. You're involved in coaching and all. Is there ever a day that goes by that you don't tap into that muscle memory index about something you learned playing sports as a kid in Naperville, Illinois, and 3 different coaches in 5 years at Ole Miss? I would think, hell yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it shapes the person that you are today. I mean, and you think when you're going through, just like anything that I hate to say the word traumatic, but when something you go through as difficult as playing football and the practices and meetings and, just the wear and tear on it, you just think back and you're like, gosh, that was miserable when you were going through it. But you look back at it and you say you wouldn't trade it for the world, just because, and it's little things. I mean, whether it's discipline or whether it's, it's manners, it's just, work ethic, whatever else it is. It's, hey, I don't feel like doing something, but I know I've got to do it. Right. I mean, and that's one of the things that is a huge part of my life and continues to be a part of my life. But yeah, there's not a day that goes by I don't think about it. I mean, it's hard because that was such a major factor in my life and how it shaped me. And, I met my wife at Ole Miss, and, we've been, huge Ole Miss fans, and Ole Miss is such a big part of my life, and just that experience down there and how much it's shaped, what I am today. So, and I think a lot of what John was saying, just, I know it's completely different than, the game today is completely different from not so much the game, but just everything that's around it, just the pressure on these kids with, videos and Twitter and just Instagram, just you name it. Anything they do is under a microscope. And thank God we didn't have that when we were playing. And the money and this and that and everything else, and a lot of pressure on the coaches and the universities. And it's just a different world. And to John's point, he's, it's a challenge for them, and they've got to come up with ways to, to kind of keep a focus for these kids that, hey, there's a lot of money out there and stuff like that. You may get some money, but this is not life-changing money to the extent to where you never have to work again. Right.
Yeah.
It's, this is something that, hey, you're getting paid for your talents, which is great. I mean, we can go into that a little bit more, just my thoughts on it. But I mean, this is something, hey, this is going to give you a leg up. Maybe it helps your parents. Maybe it helps your family. Awesome. But don't lose focus of why you're here, right? School first, get the education. They're paying for your education, which is a huge gift. And then, use the sport that you're in to, to shape yourself to a better person, to eventually, as John was saying, very few people make it to the next level. I mean, it's, the numbers are just, it's kind of eye opening, because you just think of all the great athletes that you played with that never played NFL or the NBA or Major League Baseball or whatever else it is. So, and I'm sure they're doing a great job. I mean, there's so many more resources and money that they have to support these student athletes. And I think it's just their biggest challenge is going to keep them focused on, hey, yeah, you want to be in the NFL or whatever it may be, but there's a good chance you won't be. So let's prepare you for that life if you don't make it. Right.
Yeah.
And, give you a bit of a foundation. And I tell you from the money standpoint on the NIL stuff, heck, I mean, that could, that's a big deal because most college kids come out of school, they have either debt or no money. I mean, in my
Yep.
case, I just had no money. I mean, it was just, that was the way it was. But,
Yes.
now
Yeah.
they can have it and they come out and they have some money. I mean, and whether it's, to buy clothes, I mean, if it's a smaller amount or buy a car, or buy a house or whatever it may be, that's a huge leg up. And I just hope, and I think they are. I mean, they're educating these kids on money, obviously how to handle it, just kind of what that means. It doesn't go as far as you think it does, especially once you get out of college. I think there are great things to it, but there are a lot of traps and a lot of bad things that come along with it too if it's not handled properly. So I'll leave that up for the experts as far as figuring out how to control it. But anyway, so. But yeah, it's just one of those things that, I think it's a big challenge for coaches, just to keep these guys, one, at school with the transfer portal, obviously, and NIL, and then keep them focused on education and the life
Yeah.
after football
Yeah.
or whatever sport.
And Brock, hold those thoughts because I want to come back into it about the money that's out there right now. We're going to be back. Broc Krietz, former Ole Miss player, financial advisor, guru, with us on Sidelines right after this quick commercial break. All right, just make sure you are, if you're out and about today, Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. Audrey and I were out there. I guess it was Wednesday. Man, she got the women's stuff out there is incredible. They've got 7,000 pairs of boots and counting. Old South, Devil Dog jeans. Hey, if you're 34, you wear 32. It makes you feel good about yourself. Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee. HewlettandDunn.com. They will ship anywhere. Also, Red River Ford Toyota, Wynn, Arkansas, RedRiverFordToyota.com. They will deliver cars, trucks, and SUVs anywhere. Broc Krietz. Broc, you and I both have been working with people. I'm in this is the 33rd year now as a financial advisor. It's kind of like the mob. Once you're in, you can't get out. But think about this NIL deal. I want to throw this at you. You came from a big German Catholic family in Naperville. What, 5 kids in your family, or were there 6?
Yeah, 5 kids.
So I thought, okay. So you come down there, you knew how to compete. You had to compete to eat. I mean, I always use that term, but the Lanigan family over at St. Louis, great Catholic family, Tony Lanigan and Nancy and their 5 boys. I remember asking Nancy one time, I said, God, what's breakfast like around here? Because they're all just big Irishmen, and she goes, well, I put oatmeal out kind of to buffer them, and then I get the sausage and the eggs and the pancakes going, and I'm going, or I think about the Cunninghams, these big, 6 boys. I mean, God, how did you deal with it? But you learned how to compete. But I can say this, and I bet you can too. Of all the people we've dealt with over the years, let's say someone has 4 kids and they've got, $40 million they want to disperse. Never, ever once has it even been a possibility that they would give $10 million to their 18, 19, 20-year-old kids. It's always age-banded and incentive-based trusts. You agree with me? Why don't we just do the same thing for NIL? I'd rather know that's going to be out there for me later. And I understand, but I want your thoughts because you've been in those shoes. I have not.
Yeah, and and again, I think the NIL is great. I mean, I think it does, it can be, to an extent, life changing, short term, whatever it may be. I mean, it's not going to pay for the rest of your life by any chance or sense of the word. But I mean, again, I mean, they're doing the stuff that was done behind the scenes out in the open now. So, It's
Any malfeasance in the past? Are you kidding me?
yeah, statute of limitations. So, heck, I was just happy to get a scholarship. So, and my meals and everything else paid for. So, but, there were several years back. And again, look, I mean, I think it's good, especially some of these kids that come from nothing. I mean, I remember kids that would show up with, one t-shirt, blue jeans, a pair of shoes, and a pillowcase with the rest of his stuff and toiletries. I mean, literally that's all he had to his name.
Oh, yeah.
And so some of this money, I think on the good side of it, it does. I mean, it just from a mental standpoint, just from a pressure standpoint, whether it helps a family or just gives a kid a boost, or he can, put gas in his car, or, get a car to drive back and forth to home, get the parents up to the games, whatever it may be. I think that's awesome. What I think the issue that I get concerned about, it's a couple. One from the, obviously the financial side, right? When you give, to your point, you give an 18-year-old a bunch of money. Well, I know what I did as an 18-year-old when I had money, because I never had it. I spent it, right?
Yeah.
It was gone. I mean, it just, you weren't looking at, hey, tomorrow I got to save up for this or, for that or anything else. Well, I mean, we really didn't have that because you didn't have any money. So, I mean, it wasn't like you had many savings goals. And so these guys get these, and girls get these, influxes of cash, and it's spent. And so I think that, to an extent, obviously is tricky, but, that's no different than anybody else. And I don't have a problem if they do get some of it to where they can have fun with it. I mean, they've earned it to that extent. The bad part about it is, from the game standpoint, what I worry about, again, this is just my general feelings, is, you were talking about being hungry, right? And staying hungry, heck, when anybody comes to campus, as John was talking about, you're a small fish in a big pond. I mean, that's one of the most humble moments when you come as a top dog from your high school down to, college, and you're surrounded by athletes that are as good or much better. And so, but that's that incentive to get better, right? To be hungry. I need to, you got to be hungry. Obviously you're hungry when you get into it, and, you're full of testosterone and, piss and vinegar and everything else, trying to make your place in on the team and wherever else. The issue I get is that, when you get that money, sometimes it just disincentivizes people to, to be hungry. I hate to put it that way, but, if somebody's given $150,000 and they're like, man, they're going to give me 150 grand. And as long as I kind of meet this criteria, they're going to keep giving it to me. And, if I go to second string or third string, whatever it may be, I just think it has the possibility of taking away, the incentive to continue to get better and better, because there were a lot of guys that said, hey, I want to make it to the NFL. Right. And I know I'm going to have to bust my rear end to get to that point. Right. And there is no fallback. I don't have a pile of cash, that's sitting there waiting on me if I don't make it. And, that alone, I mean, is a great motivator. I mean, when you're hungry, there are a lot of things you're going to do. And I think that's where I get a little concerned about how it's going to affect the game and players. And again, I may be blown out of proportion, but when I looked at this whole thing, I sat on a committee, I guess it was probably 7 or 8 years ago after my M Club term. And anyways, we just had speakers from different places. And, it was, I think Ross was actually talking, Bjork, and he was the former AD. And he was talking about, the plan. This is just when everything started coming up about paying players. And initially, the plan that they were looking to go with was they would pay every scholarship athlete, right, a certain amount of money each year. And then they would put it in escrow. And then when they graduated, that money would be there. Okay. Or they completed a certain amount of years, or if they left after 2 years, they got that money, whatever it may be. And then, because to me, when, the biggest time when you need money, obviously you need it sometimes when you're in college, but your food and everything's pretty much taken care of. It's when you're done with school, right? I mean, if you're going out into the work world, and I mean, you need some things, that's really when you needed money. And I thought that was a great plan, just because you're paying the kids, right? You're giving them, sharing some of that revenue that the schools are getting and whatever it may be. But that money's kind of tucked away. And at some point, hey, when they graduate, whatever it is, they get that money, and then they have, a bit of, they have resources to go out and kind of support themselves and get a little bit of a leg up. I thought that was a great idea. And now it's kind of the Wild West, and I really don't know how they're going to rein it in. I mean, they've kind of let the horse out of the barn, and the NCAA hadn't done a good thing in I don't know how long. So
Yeah.
I don't know who's going to have to step in. There's talks of Congress and stuff like that, but I mean, do they need to get involved? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. It's just I think in the current state, the way we're going, we could be heading for a train wreck.
Yeah, I agree. And it's ironic that one of your former coaches, obviously the first year, could you imagine Billy Dog Brewer trying to deal with Twitter? What you going on? what do we got here? Him and Pat Dye and Vince Neal.
Well, as long as he could post pictures of his dogs, I mean, I think he would love that. I don't know if he would be able to type or any message or anything, but he would. Yeah. Sure would put his dogs up there, but that would be worth watching.
He would probably have a social media butler. Like I've got
100%.
kids. I remarried now. I have a fourth that went to Alabama, still a good person, Mallory. But, Hallie, Wilson, Max, and Mallory, those are my social media butlers.
There you go.
That's
my kids too.
But Tommy Tuberville, we saw him down at the Auburn LSU game. We're talking to him before the game. He said Washington is he's never seen anything like it. But he said on the show, so I would never violate anything said off the record, but he said off the show, not a day goes by, he doesn't get calls from coaching friends around the country that are expressing concern, a hell of a lot of concern about NIL. And,
sure.
You somehow managed to navigate it and make it through college. I know, when I was in college at Auburn, and I've got a son that just graduated from there a year ago. I mean, they'd have football players at the parties. They're students just like anybody else. And it's amazing how when they're over at a fraternity house or something like that, they feel relaxed. Wilson used to have a lot of the players would come by his place at Auburn just to kind of get away and unwind because, he's in finance and he's into that investment banking and private equity healthcare world. And he's working about 16 hours a day, so I mean, I get 11
hungry.
Yeah, he's hungry. I'm very happy. He's very competitive. But Broc, the cool thing about it is you never quit, and you had 3 coaches in 5 years. And by the way, Joe Lee Dunn never wore a pair of socks, did he?
No. Oh, no socks, Joe Lee? No, God.
I love that. And then you had Tommy Tuberville come in. But you had 3 coaches in 5 years. Now, let's just kind of fast forward. Guys have always transferred. We know that. And then guys come in like Tim Bowens because he wants to get a master's, and play football. But guys have always transferred. But with the portal making it easy now, would you ever tell any of your 3 beautiful children, hey, I think you ought to just quit because, the wind's blowing in your face and go to this place.
Right.
It's and Tommy Tuberville said it. He goes, we're supposed to be teaching these kids lessons for life.
Yep.
And this is against everything, we do.
Yeah. And it's loyalty. I mean, again, I'm not going to give, a sob story about, the transition is probably the best word I can say for the Ole Miss situation when I was there. But, it was Brewer. Obviously, he got fired that spring, I guess. And then Joe Lee came in, and unfortunately, that was a dumpster fire. And then he got fired, and Tuberville came in, and he righted the ship. And to Tommy's credit, I mean, I still think he laid the foundation, to what Ole Miss is today. He did a lot of great things. And again, there are a lot of upset people at what he did, but it's the business. I mean, when you look at that, it is what it is. I mean, people switch jobs and things like that. And we're talking about loyalty here, but I guess, when I going through that, I don't know. I've been a loyal person all my life, and I just think Ole Miss gave me that opportunity, and I had a chance to transfer. I guess it was after when Tuberville came in. I had a chance to transfer over to UAB. John Neal was it was the one that recruited me, and he went over there. I think it was Watson Browne. It was
Yes.
Mac Brown's brother. And anyways, they wanted me to play quarterback, and because they were running the option, one of the last. And anyways, I took the visit, and ultimately I just said, look, I made the commitment to Ole Miss, and I want to stay there. And it was not a good situation. I think I had switched. I guess that at that point I had switched from quarterback to running back. Believe it or not, I don't know if you ever knew I played running back, or I was in the running back category. Yeah, let's put it that way. And then I just came back, and I think it's just what the transfer portal does, to me, and it's a great point, is just you don't have any loyalty, right? I mean, and it wasn't just me that had to go through all that. It was 50, 60, 70, 80 different guys that had to go through it too. And I think especially my class, Walker's class, which was just right below me, and then the other guys that came in, I mean, it hardened us, but it also, hey, we it was like battle. You made it through kind of the other side, and you saw things were getting better, and I mean, it shaped our team. I mean, again, I mean, there is no way in in the world that I should have been playing linebacker in the SEC, but Tommy Tuberville made it work. I made it work. The team made it work, and just you had the right pieces in the right places, and Tommy won a lot of games that we shouldn't have won. I mean, that you talk about the Georgia game in '96. I think we had 60 or 62 scholarship players. I mean, because of probation.
Yeah.
And so, just what we went through and the loyalty and everything else, you can't get that with transfer kids. And again, nothing against the transfer kids and, coming in, because they're a vital piece of the game and everything else in the team, but it disincentivizes loyalty. And what's happening is, and then of course you throw COVID on top of it, these freshman classes are getting smaller and smaller just because these coaches are using the transfer portal, more and more. And so, it's closing opportunities, unfortunately. And, maybe they're going to shut that down. I would, I still think that, if you transfer anywhere, unless it's just a major situation, something happens, that you have to sit out a year. I mean, again, that was the way it worked when we, forever. And, it seemed to work. And, now it's just, I don't know. I'm not sure what has turned this tide, but you keep opening these can of worms. And at some point, you're never going to have a transfer rule. I mean, especially you can transfer all you want, and you don't have to sit out and do any of that. And that puts a ton of pressure. And again, if we're trying to teach kids, life skills, I mean, loyalty is a huge one. I mean, integrity, I mean, just sticking to your word, your commitment, and everything else. And again, we're going to break those from time to time. That's just part of being human. But we're not teaching them very well. I mean, with kind of what's going on. I mean, that's just, again, that's my opinion. I'm sure it's not a popular opinion, but I just worry for the game and just the sports in general, because college sports is, I think, the greatest gift we have. I mean, there's absolutely nothing like it, especially college football. I mean, I'll watch NFL here and there, but I mean, college football, if it's, South Dakota State or, some Pac West team or what that's playing, I'm going to turn it on and watch it, just because,
So am I.
Something about amateur athletes. And again, ultimately it's just that hunger and that incentive. And it's just a different game watching it. And I'm concerned that we lose that. We're starting to lose that. We're going to lose it unless we get this thing under control.
Yeah. And look, we're going to take a break in just a couple of more minutes. After that, a few more questions. I'm with you. In your opinion, your opinion is very well received on this show. History, traditions, and heroes. There's a belief in our family, your honor is dearer than your life. If you can't trust the people in the huddle, in that locker room, if you can't trust your partners in a business partnership, you've got nothing. And relationships build trust. Trust builds relationships. But anything that I still care about is because I had to work so hard for it. That's the bottom line. And that's what sports teaches. We'll take a quick break. Be right back. A couple more minutes with Broc Krietz, and then Coach Jackie Sherrill will check in with us up on the White River in Arkansas. And you played against him. That's right.
I did. Absolutely.
I'm getting text from Dave Cody out in Washington State going, 3 coaches in 5 years ago. Damn right. Right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Dave was out in Austin forever, about 37 years as a sports anchor. So he's watched this and just said, wow, 3 coaches in 5 years. He saw some turnover at Texas, but not that fast. But that I think that shaped you a lot too, Broc. I mean, because as well as I do. I mean, wow, we see a lot of stuff happen. People say, "What do you, Browne? The market went down 1,000 points today. What'd you do?" I said, "Well, you ever talk to an emergency room trauma surgeon? When a 20-car pileup comes in, I save lives. I sewed people up, got them upstairs to surgery.
That's right.
And a lot of times, most of the time, I'll say I didn't really know it because, people that look at the stock market and every day are like, and freak out are people, the same people that go out and pull their vegetables up by the roots every day in the backyard. They never have any, tomatoes or eggplants or squash. You got to do it that way. But the bottom line is, Broc, you as a student athlete are the embodiment. And what you said is powerful stuff. We got to get you back on here again. I was sitting there thinking yesterday, and Yancey Porter Yancey's on with us a lot every week.
Yeah.
And, the bottom line is he knows the student athletes and he knows the stories. And, like you said, we kiddingly talk about statute of limitations and what have you. But there was I don't know if you were aware, one of his closest friends, Johnny Morgan, died in an airplane crash. Big guy there in Oxford, about 8 miles away from the airport in Fayetteville a couple of days ago. And, Yancey, it's so connected and tied in at Ole Miss, as are you. And also, before Coach Sherrill comes on, I'm going to let you go. But you're out there still coaching. You're having an impact on people's lives. I mean, and that you're giving back all the time. And I would say, I'll be biased. That's typical of a good German Catholic. I'm a Scotch-Irish Episcopalian Catholic. But Broc, we got to get
guilt, right? Catholic guilt.
Yeah, that's right. We got to get you back on. And by the way, have you been to Abe's Barbecue lately?
Yes, I have actually. It was about a month and a half ago. I did.
You cannot. Yeah. Well, you can't beat the Big Abe or the tamales.
No.
And Miss Lucille.
Well.
I love Miss Lucille in there waiting on us. She is incredible. Many a duck hunt down at Bobo Break. Have to put Scotch tape up there to keep our eyes going on the way back up there. But Broc, look, man, thank you so much. Again, you're what a student athlete is all about. You got your degree, you overcame everything they threw at you, and you asked for seconds, man. God love you.
That's right.
But come back on again soon, okay?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Rob. I appreciate it. Great to see you,
man.
buddy.
Glad that good seeing you on the StreamYard. That is Broc Krietz. We'll let him get back to his work. Let's bring in Coach Jackie Sherrill, and let's bring in Bo Carter. Coach Sherrill. Oh, I love this. We just you're up there on the White River. Are you at Gaston's or are you at Lindsay's?
We're in Cutter.
Cutter. Okay. All right. Going to do some trout fishing, I bet, aren't you?
Well, we've already been on the lake, and my son's caught about 6, and I've caught about 4.
There you go. Look, man, it's going to be an awesome day for you. Bo Carter is with us right now, former SID at Mississippi State and National Football Foundation, the Southwest Conference, Big 12, Baseball Writers of America. Great stuff. And, Coach, man, I know you got a big day ahead of you, but I want to say, first of all, to Bo, thank you for joining us. And Coach Sherrill, thank you for taking time out of your day to join us as well. You're in a beautiful part of the country. I'm over in Parkin, Arkansas in the Delta, but I can see Crowley's Ridge out the window. But, man, we just had – what a beautiful view.
It's very gorgeous.
Oh, man.
I love that. That's the view. Just keep that one going.
Yeah.
I love this.
This is our guide, Jacob.
Hey, Jacob, how are you? What's the name of his guide service? We'll send people his way. Ask him to give the name of the guide service, because if people are seeing this, I want to go fish with that guy that took Coach Sherrill. Tell people how to get in touch with you.
Well, get in touch with me. I'm K Singer Outfitters on Facebook. KASINGER. It's K Singer Outfitters. But today I'm working for Rainbow Drive Resort as well.
All right. Well, look, people will do that because you are in a beautiful part of the country, and I'm a trout fishing junkie. We'll be up on the Spring River next Friday and Saturday and Sunday fishing. We'll go to Rockbridge. Can't do enough trout fishing. It's kind of like where you are is like being at Pebble Beach, Coach. But Coach Matt Dean is on with us as well. And Coach, we won't. This is the best. I think in all the years of doing this show, that's the best background we've ever had. Trout fishing on the White River.
Well, I'll have to say it is better than being stuck in the office somewhere.
It is. Matt Dean, say hello to Coach Sherrill up there. I know we got into some stuff the other day. That was he's got the best background ever.
Hey, Coach, it's a pleasure to meet you. I tried to talk to you the other day, but I think the mute button was stuck. We had some technical difficulties, but it's great to see you, Coach.
Well, thank you. It was. You know, I kept hitting, trying to push it off, and it wasn't. Then I'd go back on and reboot. You know, so I'd like to say it's a dummy, you know, in the IT world, but
hey,
Coach, we all got those problems. Trust me.
That's right. If it weren't for our kids, we wouldn't have had to do any of this. My kids are my IT people. Coach, there's a lot happening. We had John Hartwell on in the first segment from the Sun Belt Conference meetings down in Destin, and then Broc Krietz was on right before us, who played linebacker at Ole Miss 93 through 97. He went head-to-head against y'all for 5 years. We talked about the portal. We talked about the student-athlete experience. And Broc made a great point. I used to work with Broc at Regions Morgan Keegan. 5 kids from Naperville, Illinois, and his family. Like you said, you had to compete just to eat, just to get something to eat with 5 kids. He gets to Ole Miss. He goes, I didn't get anything. I worked. I got my degree. He's as close with those guys as you can get because of what y'all went through. As a coach, how rewarding is it for you now? And hopefully you're going to live to 100. But how rewarding is it for you to see the kids that you coached? And there's a lot of them at Washington State, at Pitt, at A&M, at Mississippi State. And when you came to St. George's in Memphis, I mean, Michael Jordan was telling me, and the different people I talked to that have met you, John David Badur, they all know you, but your time in Memphis and Germantown was impactful. But I bet that's a long list of guys you've impacted, isn't it?
Well, it goes both ways. I mean, your players are kind of like your kids. And, one thing that I learned from Coach Bryant, he was not our friend. But later in life, he became not only our mentor, but our friend and guided us through, there's 2 things that a coach does. One, he makes players do things they don't want to do. And 2, he helps players accomplish things that they never thought they could. And, unfortunately, in today's world, you have so many other things that are influencing the players. But if you look at the teams that win, and I'll have to say this because I know a little bit about Alabama and I've watched Georgia, but the teams that are winning today, they are doing the same thing that Coach Bryant did years ago. they are making players be held accountable, and they're helping players accomplish things they never could. You look, it's one thing I've always admired about Nick is that he spends an awful lot of money. He spends an awful lot of time helping kids develop outside of the game of football. If they couldn't play football and they were not athletes, they wouldn't be at the schools, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, anyway. So they have great talent. They're players that can play the game. But how do you develop that player into a person that is very productive? And I was at a conference, Jimmy Andrews, Dr. Andrews Sports Injury Conference, and I was so impressed with Georgia from their medical side, their trainer, but also what they do for the players develop, and how they help the players. So it hasn't changed. Difference today than back then is you may have 50 people on the staff, where back then we had 5 or 10.
Yeah. Bo Carter, jump in here.
Hey, I want to say hi to Coach Sherrill. Congratulations on the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame, too, Coach. Proud of you there. And Rob, one other accomplishment, Coach Sherrill broke up the Pony Express in the early 80s and won 3 straight Southwest Conference Championship. Beat Bo Jackson that one, but he was famous for beating Heisman Trophy winners. So,
Tim Browne. Yeah. I mean, I remember that Cotton Bowl, January 1st or 2nd, 1986. It was from the 85 season when Auburn was trying to get it. Yeah, it was. Bo had a 73-yard touchdown run. That was the highlight. Your A&M teams, Coach, and we kind of got into this the other day. Matt, did you bring it up about the 12th man? Just about going out.
The coach was talking about that before he got cut off the other day.
Yeah, tell that story. We've seen the ESPN 30 for 30, but it's so critical that people, it's ingrained in their DNA, the history of college football. You come to Texas A&M and you learn about the 12th man tradition, but you make it reality. How many people told you, first of all, it'll never work? And number 2, how many of those people ever came up and said, man, you were right, but you had a vision and you put it to work? I love it.
Well, the next morning after, it all came about when I watched the Red Pots pass to the Brown Pots. It's a long story, but make it real short. I came into the staff meeting the next morning and I told our staff what we were going to do, and they all looked at me like I was not very smart. And RC looked at me and says, Coach, you sure you didn't fall off that stack last night? But I wish I could take credit for that. I really knew what it meant to the student body, but it was one thing that completely exploded Texas A&M for the student body to be part of the football team. And, when those kids took the field, the whole student body was something that they felt because they were classmates, they were, date mates, drinking buddies. So it was something that I had no idea how big it was to the students at A&M.
Yeah. Matt?
Yeah, Coach, my son had a chance to work at A&M on the personnel recruiting side for 4 years. So we went down to Kyle Field a few times, and just an unbelievable tradition with their fan base down there that you helped start. But the neat thing I thought when I go down there, I go to the Friday night student yell section. And Friday night, they'd have 35,000 people on one side of the field getting ready for the next day's football game. Just an incredible place to be at. I know you've had some great players, but I also look back and when you coached Dan Marino, that must have been a pretty special time for you in your career as well.
Well, the students themselves, you're talking about Friday night, tradition. They have a saying at A&M, if you do it twice, it becomes a tradition. But the Friday night yell practice is an experience that if anybody has a chance to go to A&M, they need to make sure they go to Friday night yell practice, and then also watch the Corps march in on before the game on Saturday. Very, very impactful, and especially very touching if you have any instincts or any relatives that have been in the military. So there's a lot of traditions at A&M, but as we know, the football of any university is the face, and the better the face is, the better the university in a lot of people's eyes. But A&M has been very fortunate. They have been able to go from a very small university to the largest university in the country. I was kind of astonished when I looked up who they were fighting to have the most students, and it's Central Florida. I had no idea that Central Florida was that big, because I visited years ago and it was very small. But Texas A&M and Central Florida, you're looking at almost 69,000 students.
Coach, let's take a look here at college football where we are right now. I always like to tell you, because you did 31 years ago, you saw this, you the harbinger of things to come. 4 probably big super conferences. We're going from a 4 now to a 12-team playoff, but let's take a look back maybe to your vision, and it's incredible how accurate and on target you were. But we got to save college football. We cannot, America, this country, it's the greatest country in the world, but the lessons of hard work and coaches putting the foot up your ass and not letting you quit on yourself are as good as anything that you'll ever read. And I'm talking biblical. It's so important. We cannot let college football fail.
Well, it's not going. We're not going to get rid of college football. But I have to preference everything I say because this is my opinion. And in my opinion, where we are right now, because of the portal, because of the transfer portal, and with the NIL, they don't work. We're seeing that right now. We're seeing people scramble. We're seeing some universities that have a payroll, I say payroll, but incentives up to $500,000 a month, and that's kind of crazy. But then you can't compete. Some schools no way can compete with the other schools that they're in their conference with. So we're going to go to an NFL model. We'll have East West. We'll have 2 divisions in each side, and we'll have a commissioner that will be outside the NCAA, and they will control college football. What people, and Bo and you and Matt understand, what controls college football is eyeballs. The more eyeballs you have, the more people watching. That means more revenue coming in from the corporations to put advertising on, and that's why the SEC and the Big Ten have the largest networks, and the ACC is scrambling. The Pac-12, we know, cannot. There's what people don't really understand. There's only 14% of the whole Pac-12 footprint that are college football fans. So if I'm an advertiser and I'm going to put in $5 million, $10 million, am I going to put it in where I only have 14% penetration to the market? They're not going to do that. That's why the Pac-12 could not sell the Pac-12 network. Now, fast forward to the SEC, the top 5 cities in the country that are college football fan cities is Birmingham, Atlanta, Tampa, St. Pete, Dallas, and Houston. Those are the 5 top cities in the country of football fans, college football fans. So the TV market is in that area. So the SEC will always have the largest television package because they have more eyeballs watching television in their conference. Now, picking up Oklahoma and Texas, it's expanded that region and picking up more eyeballs.
Yeah.
So we'll only have maybe 48 or 50 teams right in that area, but that's where we're headed. We have the 12-game playoff that fits right into the NFL model. So, in my opinion, that's where we're headed.
Coach, I love the First Amendment and the right of free speech and assembly is protected here on this show. So always feel free to let her rip because, we've had you on a number of times and your candor is so much appreciated. I remember a saying Coach Dye used to say, that you've got two kinds of people in the world, people that'll sign off on every bad idea you come up with, or you got truth brokers. So, if you ask somebody, does the dress make me look fat? Yeah, it does. You may get punched, but you will tell the truth. That's what I love it's where we're going in college football. Now, Matt, your proposal the other day, and I always think it's so important, it's absolutely paramount to give credit where it's due. You had an idea, you wanted to throw it at Coach Sherrill about a playoff for, say, not just the Power Five, but even Group of Five.
No. First of all, I think Coach Sherrill should become the new commissioner.
That's right. I really wish you would.
My vote is for Coach to be the new commissioner. I agree.
Double thumbs up.
I agree 100% with his model, and I think it's going to be coaching that 48 to 54 range. But I'd also like to see, too, a similar model and maybe the next tier. And I don't know if you think that could possibly work as well, because everybody loves college football, not just the Group of Five. I coach at Division III, so everybody loves college football.
Well, see, this is where the NCAA has really messed up.
Yeah.
Don't tell me at a school like Troy or a school like US San Antonio, if they win a national championship, don't tell me it doesn't mean just as much to those players and to the people that support those schools as Alabama winning or Texas winning or A&M winning a national championship. Yeah. So, it doesn't matter what division you're in, having an opportunity to compete. And that's where I feel the NCAA has failed, because they should have had national championships in different divisions. We all can't be the top dogs. And you look at corporations, how many Exxon Mobils are there? Or how many, you go on, how many other large corporations, but yet there's still small corporations that are very successful. And there are smaller division football that are very successful, and they have a lot of pride in their school and their players. So, hopefully we get to that, and somebody will wake up and say, okay, let's have a championship. And Ben, you're right. Matt, you're right. We need to have a championship in different divisions.
Well, Coach, I got to say this too. This is just from a listener out in Washington. Said Jackie Sherrill was a supporter of George Lindsay's celebrity golf tournament in Montgomery, also Special Olympics of Alabama. Coach, if you can stay on with us a little long today, we'd appreciate it, because my phone screen, it just cracked. I'm gonna have to go to the AT&T store. But people are saying you got to keep Coach on. It's the best background ever, but he's a truth broker, and you really are. But Matt and Bo, I don't know if you all remember this, but do this for the sake of our listeners. About a year ago, you did one of the coolest things ever. And Bo, your cousins, Jack and John Turner, are listening right now. These are Their blood is crimson red. And John was at Alabama in the later 60s. I think you had just left. But tell them about Coach Bryant's daily routine, because I got more feedback in 3.5 years of doing this show on that story. People said, I never, ever knew that about the man from Fordyce, Arkansas, Morrow Bottoms. But tell that story, Coach, about his daily routine.
He was up every morning at 5 o'clock. He had breakfast at a certain restaurant on the way to his office at 6. Staff meetings at 7. At 10 o'clock, he took a break and walked down to drugstore. Bo, you remember where that was?
Yes, sir.
It was a block from his office. And at 10:30, he was back at his office, but he was in the stock market from 10:30 to noon. And then he had lunch, and then at 1:20 we had the staff or squad meetings. But that was his routine. He always stayed in the dormitory with us. He had a room on the first floor, and from Sunday night through Thursday, and then he would go home Thursday night, and Friday we'd stay whatever hotel we were playing at, or that city. But that was his schedule, and he stuck to it. But he was a lot smarter than we are. And people today, people think that Coach Bryant couldn't coach. Yes, he could coach today.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think there's any doubt. And you talk about routine, Bo and Matt. I think we're all a little ADD or OCD, whatever, but that getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning, I mean, there's just something about having the high ground, Coach, isn't it? I mean, what time are you up every morning? Like, I know this morning, probably pretty early.
Well, my alarm clock is always between 5:30 and 6.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and you go back and you look at what's happening in college football now. And you mentioned about it doesn't matter whether it's Division 1, 2, or 3. It's all important because they're keeping score out there. And I think the worst thing we can do in America is try to soften people up. We need more tough, hard-ass coaches. Again, my parents are 88 and 94, and I'm still scared of them. But, I mean, I respect them, but there's certain things I would never, ever do in front of my parents. But I think back about the coaches, the teachers, the tutors that you've ever had. They were tough on you. And, man, when my teams used to play against your teams, you always had a lot of stuff you were writing. You were one of the cerebral coaches. Talk about where that came from. Who really showed you that way of doing it in coaching? Because you had plans is unbelievable.
Well, I had the opportunity of playing for Coach Bryant and working for him as a coach for 1 year, and then had the opportunity to work for Coach Broles and then Coach Majors for 8 years. So I had the opportunity to be around three coaches that won national championships, but 3 coaches that did things differently. Coach Bryant, people ask who he is. I said, best way to describe it, Coach, was he was a man's man. Everything he wanted in a man, he was. He's very big physically, but he was awful tough mentally, demanding, but he also had a lot of compassion. Coach Broles was a great businessman, and he approached, the teams and workouts and other things as a business. And then Coach Majors was probably the best PR. He could meet you 15 years later and tell you exactly where he met you and everything you said. So you had the opportunity to work for 3 different great coaches, 3 different outstanding people. But there's no coach, and I all due respect to the coaches today and Saban and certainly other coaches, there's never been a coach like Coach Bryant.
Yeah. And it's, I mean, Again, another comment from a listener. He says, it's amazing how quiet all of y'all are. Coach Sherrill's words command a lot of respect. And I go back to something you just said. I remember the Stillwaters. Coach Dye would have a golf tournament there, and sports writers and all would come there, and there'd be some card playing and some drinking and relationship building. But Coach Dye had a speaking voice that as he got toward the end of a sentence, it kind of trailed off, and it forced everybody to be on the edge of their seat listening. You have a similar speaking. It's unbelievable from that coaching tree you came from. Coach Bryant didn't holler a lot, did he? It seemed like he was sort of calm, and that scared. But no, I didn't play for him. Okay, I didn't play for him. But when you watched him in public, he had a way of his voice would kind of trail off, and it made people listen to every word he said. That's unique.
Well, he could command the audience, but when he walked in, and Bo knows very well, but all the great people. I mean, you can go back to General Patton, you can go back to other people. It's just the person themselves, and they didn't get there by themselves. We as coaches, and you look at Nick, or you look at anybody else out there today, they didn't get there by themselves. And Coach Bryant had a lot of help. I had a lot of help, and so does Nick have. Like I said, Nick probably has the largest staff of anybody in the country, but it works, and he makes it work.
Well, Coach, another thing I see now, the young coaches, are we going to have coaches stick it out and stay in as long as you did, and as long as Barry Switzer, Jimmy Johnson, Frank Broyles, Johnny Majors, or are they going to say this portal and all this stuff is crazy? I'm washing my hands of it. Because if that happens again, we're in trouble.
Well, with the money they're paying today, they don't have to work as long as we. But the demand is stronger, and what is expected. Money seems like it. If you look at Southern Cal, I'll use them for example. If you just look at Southern Cal, what they're paying for past coaches in almost all sports. But if you look around the country, a $10 million, $20 million contract, the university, because the amount of money that the universities, let's just take the Pac-10. The Big Ten, they signed the $1 billion contract per year. So you're looking at each institution coming from television income between, $70 and $80 million a year. And you look at the SEC, I don't think anybody will know what that contract is, but you look at the SEC and they're making probably between 80 and it'll go to 100 million a year. So, and then you look at the income brought in from, just football alone, you're looking at a university football program of bringing in $200 to $250 million. So if you put that into the business world, what would the CEO be making if he had a $250 million dollar company every year?
Yeah, that's wow, Matt. We got about a couple more minutes before a break, and then we'll come back for one more segment. This is incredible.
Quick question for Coach, because pretty soon we're going to be talking about predictions for 23. Coach, do you like Georgia's chances to get back in that Final Four? Or do you see a team coming up the docket that we need to be looking at outside of the norm? Who do you like coming up in this upcoming season?
Well, Georgia has players. You're going to have to start with Georgia. Alabama has players. But I feel because of the portal, because of the NIL, the most important position as it is in pro ball is who is the quarterback.
That's right.
And if you want to see who's got a chance, it's the first thing you got to do is look at the roster coming back and how much playing time did they have the year before. And I'll go back to Alabama. When Alabama had the best football team, period, and great defense, their third defensive tackle had more stats than the first and second team tackle. So they lose the first team tackle to the NFL draft, but they still had the second and third team defensive tackle.
That's right.
So you look at the roster, how much playing time, how much productivity did they have? Then if you were smart enough, then you could pretty well. My son just caught a big one. Yeah, here, let me show you.
Yeah, let's take a look at that. Oh, that's a brown. That's a brown trout. Oh, wow.
Holy smokes.
Woo! All right, let's do this. Let's take a quick break, Coach. We'll do one more segment with you. This is
you're taking my wait a minute. You're
You
taking
can't
my
use
fishing
fish.
time now.
We'll come back for just a couple of minutes after the break, and we'll let you go.
All right.
Okay, a few more minutes. We'll be right back.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Okay, Rob Browne back here with Bo Carter out in Dallas, Matt Dean over in Memphis, Coach Jackie Sherrill up on the White River in Cutter, Arkansas. And holy cow, that is beautiful. Coach, I know you want to get back to fishing, so that's a big brown trout. That is a big brown trout. Oh, wow. Oh, yeah, let's get on that. That is beautiful. That is beautiful.
I'm jealous. My son just caught it, and I'm on the radio with you guys.
Yeah, Coach, listen, we're going to let you get back to work and fishing and have a great time. But I want to, as always, say thank you so much for taking time to share with us. And we'll get you back on again soon. And we will make sure people get up there to Cutter. We got the name of the resort where you are, and hope you have a great time up there.
Thank you very much, Bo. Good. I mean, it's great to see you.
Good to see you.
Yeah, good luck to you guys. Thank you.
Have a good fishing day. Good luck on the boat.
Thank you so much. Okay, bye-bye. Wow, what a look. I mean, that is definitely the first brown trout caught on Sidelines.
On Sidelines, that's right.
Because I'll be next Friday up at Rockbridge in Missouri catching the trout. And it's a 3-mile stretch. They've got a hatchery there, and it's up in the Ozarks. No cell phones, no Wi-Fi, no fun of any kind, social media-wise, but it's all fun. Go to the meat hole, and you go down there. It's about 3 miles, big cliffs on the side, fish everywhere. Man, then on the Spring River, Saturday and Sunday, fishing. Anytime you're trout fishing is like any time on a golf course. It's a beautiful place to be. But, Matt, I like what Coach said. And Bo, you know this. Doesn't matter, group of 5 or power 5, everybody, it's personal. They want to win. I love that.
Well, and he made a really good point. You know, like if you look at you look at all of college football, and really it's no different. Well, it is different than basketball because of March Madness, but like Division III, we have a playoff.
Mm-hmm.
Division II, we have a playoff. 1AA or whatever you want to call it has a playoff. But the group of 5 is mixed in with Power 5, and they usually get one slot in the top. They go to like a New Year's Six Bowl, Bo, and that's their reward.
Mm-hmm.
If there was a separate 48-50, like Coach was talking about, for the group of 5, that would be a hell of a tournament as well. And I think you make a good point. And another point he just made that's, I think, spot on, that he just says it very succinctly. Go look at the rosters of returning teams, look at the quarterback spot, and look at how many people return that had significant playing time, and you got your top 20,
I totally agree, man. And, Alabama's got, Rob's seen this. I think Saban is trolling around trying to find an NIL or transfer portal quarterback. Their quarterbacks had a kind of an offspring or whatever. So that's a big if right there for them. And, Coach said Georgia's loaded, man, even without Stetson Bennett. They've got Robin Matt, 18 draft choices the last 2 years.
25.
25. Good.
25 at Georgia in the last year. And I looked at y'all something on Alabama under Nick Saban. Now remember, first year he got there in 2007. In April of 2008, 0. And I'm not doing the Oregon deal. 0 players drafted.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in April of 2008. The subsequent 15 drafts thereafter, 134 players drafted. And I think it's 43 or 44 first-round draft picks.
Yeah.
And you go back to something our friend Pat Dye Jr., who's a sports agent, Sports Trust Advisors there in Buckhead, right next to Brookhaven, right next to Atlanta. Well, they're still part of Atlanta as of right now. But Pat Dye Jr. is one of the 5 agents that Coach Saban really leans on. And Pat Dye Jr. said, I have, ironically, more of my clients in my 35 years are Alabama guys than any other school.
Mm-hmm.
He said a few years ago he was approached about Quinnen Williams, defensive tackle at Alabama. He's like, who? Because they got him stacked up.
Mm-hmm.
Quinnen Williams ends up being the number 3 pick in the draft.
Yeah.
And, that's pretty cool to be able to do that. But Stat Tiger, Stuart Carter, our friend with Inside the Auburn Tigers, get him back on here again here soon. He takes data and does things. It's incredible. But one of his stats, Matt and Bo, that he talks about is the number of players on your roster that have played or started significant minutes in 20 games and 30 games.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When you stack that up and your third team guy had better stats, as Coach Sherrill referenced, than the first team guy, that's powerful stuff. I mean, that's the truth is what it is.
Well, you look at Georgia the last 2 years, and you're right. And things that we don't know is in some of those blowouts, how many third-string guys got reps.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know their names yet, but we're all ready to find out, right, Bo? And it's like they just stack classes on top of classes. And I only think, maybe the Missouri road game and a couple other games they were really tested in last year, regular season. For the most part, I was at the Oregon game, and it wasn't a game after a quarter, and Oregon won 10 games last year.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah. And Oregon's
so talented.
Yeah, no, you're right. And their football too. And Bo, what's cool about you is you're going to the Conference USA tournament. You were at the Black College Baseball World Series last week in Montgomery at Biscuit Field in Montgomery, where the Montgomery Biscuits play. Baseball is really rising in popularity. I mean, we talk college football, baseball, basketball, college sports. Let me just say this for the record. Men compete against men. Women compete against women.
That's right.
And as Sheriff J.W. said in the movie Live and Let Die with James Bond movie, you remember when James Bond was coming up out of the swamp and the other sheriff's deputy came up to J.W. and said, now, who is that? He goes, oh, he's on our side. And he goes, What? He goes, he's a secret agent. He goes, on whose side? Sheriff J.W. was confused. There are men competing against men and women competing against women. You know, and I'm going to say this because I've been told this. Brad Gaines, football player at Vanderbilt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, bless her.
Is that his daughter, Riley Gaines, the swimmer at Kentucky, who is out there fighting a one-woman battle? Because all I hear is crickets from the feminists and everybody else out there. But I'm going to tell you something. College sports are so important to this country that people spend billions of dollars to support.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody sends billions of dollars voluntarily to support the federal government, but they do for college sports. Let me tell you something. Division 1, 2, or 3, if you're looking to do some estate planning and gifting, think about a college. Maybe it's your alumnus, your alumni of that school, an alumnus of that school. Maybe it's because you know someone who goes there, or you've got kids that you've hired that work there. Think about putting them on your estate plan. You can gift. It's a great way to get some money out of your estate, your taxable estate. But this stuff is important, and that's why we talk about it every day.
And two things, Rob, I was going to say, Matt, we got to see your old friends from Russ College down at the Black College World Series. Holly Spring. We went into the locker room and told them, friends don't let their friends go to Ole Miss. They got a big remember the old commercial, friends don't let friends drive drunk or whatever.
Yeah, that's right.
They got a big laugh out of that. And Rob, Coach had a good point. Look at North Dakota State. They won 9 of the last 10 FCS championships.
Yeah.
They have a following. When they play in Frisco, Texas, outside of Dallas, they'll bring 10 or 12,000 fans down here. And I'm trying to think, South Dakota State knocked them off last year, but they party hardy. And it's such a, I mean, they've got hundreds of millions of dollars being given to the school just because of success. And success breeds success.
Wow. You know, we hunt up in South Dakota in Chamberlain, Mitchell, north of Iroquois. Those people up there, I'll tell you something else about them. They know their football and they follow it. I got a lot of wholesalers I've worked with in the financial services, securities business over the years. Al Barbaro is one of them. You know, his neighbor was Joey Bag of Donuts and Vinny Jacinza. He used to always joke about that. Well, Al is, a couple of years younger than me. He grew up in Boston, a good Italian Catholic with a big family, Mama Leone making dinner every night. He said, Rob, we used to watch on New England Sports Channel tape delayed broadcasts of SEC football games. And he grew up, this is how crazy the world is, but he grew up pulling for the Tennessee Volunteers and listening and watching those games on the New England Sports Channel. And he comes down south, he marries a woman from Prattville, Alabama, who's a season ticket holder to Alabama, and he's from Boston. You can't make this stuff up. They've got an Alabama souvenir store in Jerusalem. Have y'all not seen this thing? I mean, it's huge. This stuff is powerful, man. Eddie Robinson. There ought to be, he's on my Mount Rushmore of college football coaches, and I'll tell you why. I used to watch his show 10 o'clock Sunday mornings in Memphis as a kid. Football teaches the lessons of life. Young man gets knocked down, he gets back up and keeps fighting. Gets back up, gets knocked down, gets back up, gets knocked down, gets back up. But when he don't get up anymore, he's done fighting and he's done being a man. I mean, God, we need that type of, I don't care what you want to call it. We hear the term toxic masculinity. You're damn right. We need alpha male culture. No betas need apply here. But hearing Coach Sherrill tell those stories, and I love it. That's the first time ever. You're cutting into my fishing time. my apologies, Coach. But my phone screen, it cracked about couple of minutes in going, he's because we hang on every word of these coaches. You know, you coached for a legendary basketball coach, Herb Hildigan at Rhodes. You were a basketball manager at Drake. Bo, you were at Vanderbilt. You went to school with John Kennedy, who I think was a Sigma.
The senator.
Kennedy, Mr. Haney. Is that Mr. Haney? Is that Pat Bertram's twin brother? Well, Mr. Douglas, what do we have here? All we need now is for Hank Gimble to be in Congress, you know? Mr. Douglas, what do we say? Mr. Haney. Oliver Wendell Douglas used to lose his mind on every show. I feel like Oliver Wendell Douglas sometimes when I look at some of the stuff going on in college sports. But you know what? There's a great line in that Song of the South by Alabama. They talked the old black and white newsreels back in the Depression. The guy's saying, you know, he goes, pestilence, disease, famine, drought, hunger, starvation, reaping across America. We talked with Farmer Alex Gillis. They got that old guy, and he goes, well, we're Americans. We've been through hardship before. We'll get through this. We're going to figure this thing out with college sports, guys. Mm-hmm. Y'all are two of the smarter people we have. Bottom line is, people fix problems. People create problems. We just got to get the dumb people out of the way. Mm. Too bad everybody can't have a degree in accounting or engineering, huh?
Well, you know, Coach made a great point, too, that I didn't really realize when he was talking about the footprint of 14% eyeballs, what he labeled as, you know, from the Pac-12. No wonder USC and UCLA are going to the Big Ten. No wonder the Pac-12 can't get a good deal on TV right now.
Yeah.
The Pac-12, they're in a little bit of trouble, Bo.
Yeah, they're really. And Matt and Rob, you guys have seen this, except for Oregon, maybe Washington, USC and UCLA. Their attendance has been on a decline for maybe 10 or 12 years. I mean, there's a lot to do in LA and Arizona and everywhere else, but that does not lend itself to sponsorship or TV contracts either. You don't want to have a Arizona Washington State game with 25,000 people. It really looks. Rob, I'd say it's sort of like a Vanderbilt game.
Well, but let me say this: that you think about, there's a lot of other stuff to do. Oh, there's a lot of stuff to do. I've never been bored a day in my life. I mean, I think about this. The survey done in Birmingham, 85% of people who received the survey claimed to be college football fans. That other 15%, it got lost in the mail.
That's
because if you ain't a fan of college football, Coach Dye was asked one time, he did a hunting and fishing show after he retired from coaching college football. The guy said, Coach, is there anything bigger than the Iron Bowl? Well, I'd say in Alabama, hunting and fishing. I mean, you can't make that stuff up. And every time we go over to Atlanta to see Mallory and Chandler and Tyler, and you go on I-20, man, you go by Talladega. Mm-hmm. I'm going to tell you what, when NASCAR is ginning, America is rolling. You talk about make America great again, make NASCAR great again.
That's right.
We need more Dale Earnhardt in our culture. 3, baby. Remember, I mean, he was a badass. He'd curb stomp you in the parking lot if you looked at him. But we need that back. And I'll tell you, the thing I learned, like you said about Coach Sherrill today, the folks out there, they're more worried about the 15 different ingredients in their little cup of espresso or latte or whatever the crap they drink. The more I think about it, the more we ought to all go back to like the Cowboys used to do, just drinking it black, kind of like tar. That's good enough for me. Back when I was in TV, we used to talk about it in the newsroom, the back to the basics movement in college football. Mm-hmm. Remember Chris Schenkel, let's take a look at some scores from around the country. They'd have the guys with the long, huge rides putting the scores up there, and they'd be hanging. And they'd have a picture in the corner, like, let's go now to Matt Dean covering the big one there between Georgia and Florida. Well, this game has been incredible, and you didn't have everything on TV. As Keith Dunham said, there was a football aristocracy on TV.
Yeah.
Well, not only
I don't like
football-
aristocracy.
Not only football, and Bo knows this, back in the day, the reason I used to get up and get that morning paper is go to the sports section. I want to see the box scores of baseball games.
Yep.
I want to see the box scores of basketball games.
Mm-hmm.
But now with the internet and all the apps we got, everything is just right there in front of us. I mean, so it is obviously different times.
Well, I think about this, guys. We're about out of time. We had the Tobacco Corner newsroom at Poplar and Mendenhall in Memphis.
Mm-hmm.
I used to go there and get all the newspapers, Birmingham News, Atlanta Constitution, Montgomery Advertiser, whatever I could find. I'll never forget one of the lowest points I've ever seen a shop owner say to one of his customers. It was a tobacco shop and a newsstand, smoke shop. And this old fella's wheeling around the corner with an oxygen tank on and a walker. And the owner says, "Hey, Harry, good to see you smoking again."
That's right.
God, hey, let me say this, folks. Thank you so much, Matt Dean, for taking time and sharing with us. Bo Carter, Coach Jackie Sherrill, Broc, Krietz, John Hartwell, the first brown trout caught on Sidelines. God love you. Let me say this. We live in the greatest country in the world.
Amen.
Think about that every day when you wake up. Junk in your head, junk out, positive in, positive out. We most often see the face of Christ in the least among us, and go out and help people. We're all blessed, man. We're blessed in ways we can't even imagine. Go out and bless others and let people know they matter. Never walk by somebody without looking them in the eye and saying hello. Like I said, at Auburn, we used to have heyday. Make it heyday every day. Until then, have a great day. We are out of here.